Hello, friends, and welcome to the House Salt Book Club live show for the month of February. The book that we read this month was Ice Planet Barbarians. Is it with an S? I
It's
can't
with an S.
by Ruby Dixon. My name is Marines. My channel name is My Name is Marines, and I rated this 2 out of 5 stars.
Hi, I'm Sam from Thoughts on Tomes. I also gave this 2 out of 5 stars.
Hi everyone, I'm Paige from Paige Felicia, and I gave this. I gave it a 1 because you can't give it a 0.
Amazing.
I'm Jordan from the Jordan Journals, and I gave it a 2 out of 5 stars.
I'm Connor from Connor O'Brien, and I also gave it a 2.
Nice.
I'm from Case Race on social media, and I gave this originally a 3, on my reread a 2.
Okay, so we haven't started our reading year off like great, but we have started off with so much consensus.
Yes.
I love this for us. We're like all on the same like vibe. I love it. What I didn't love was this book. Okay.
True.
Before we jump into it, however, I'm going to ask all of you about your history with Ruby Dixon, because I think a few of us have read this book, or maybe even more in the series previous to this. And then also we'll start there. Let's start with Ruby Dixon first. So had any of you guys read anything from her before?
No.
I read the first 6 books in the series. I was just in a mood, and then I drew the line at babies, blue babies. So yeah, I peaced out after that.
Just
I have
more.
What?
Okay. So I thought it was more, but apparently it's just Kayla and me. I also I read the first book in 2018. So if any of you guys have met us or any of us like at events and stuff, so in real life, my Miami girls, Jess and Carol and Tina and I are in a real life book club. And you guys, if you know Jess, you know that she's how I keep in touch with the weirdest things that are happening in romance. So in 2018, she was like, I've got this Blue Alien book that you guys need to read. So she was really on the forefront of Ruby Dixon. And so she picked that for our book club that month. And I got to the rape scene and quit. And then she was like, Mom, you got to keep reading. And so I got to the dubious consent when the male is introduced, and I quit again. And then at the end of 2018, I was like, I'm just going to try and finish off a bunch of DNFs to try and reach my reading goal. And then I finished reading it and I gave it 2 stars. I reread it just now and I gave it 2 stars again. So that is my history with Ruby Dixon.
Also, for context, I don't know if this was the first time I'd heard about it, but I think that same year that you read it,
Yes.
then Lainey read it.
Lainey read
it.
We were all at BookNet Fest, and they were talking about this fucking Blue Alien book, and we're all like, "What the hell?" And then last year, when Book Talk blew it up, we're all like, "The Blue Alien book!" It was the weirdest thing. So that's when we discovered that they were traditionally publishing it, which is still wild to me. We were like, "Haha, funny, let's do it for February." So I think that's our group sort of introduction to all this. And Lainey was supposed to be here, and tragically there's a mouse in her apartment, so she can't. But she was supposed to be here to be the fan of the series.
Yes. And then so the Blue Alien books coming back around on TikTok, we always pick a romance book for February anyway. That's our only theme that we do in February. Oh no, we do Christmas books.
We do a Christmas romance
and a February romance. That's our thing. So we're okay, let's do the Blue Alien book. I will say that at the end of the last live show, I was really confident that I would read more in this series, because I was like, I want to know what the magic was. So I moved on to book 2 and struggled with it for 2 weeks. I did finish it, but there's just no way in hell I'm getting to book 3. It is. I think 2 is a valiant effort.
It
Yes. 2 out of the 20,
So my other question is not specifically with Ruby Dixon, but how well versed are you guys in sort of sci-fi romance or sci-fi erotica or any is this your first time that you are dipping into the alien erotica?
Yes.
Yes.
It is.
Yes.
Yeah, and I was expecting it to be a lot more spicy than it was, honestly. I was expecting like Wild Times, and it was very tame. I was very surprised.
Yeah, it's just a lot of
We're going to
sex.
talk about this because, yes, absolutely.
Yes. Yeah, this was also my first introduction to like weird erotica. I've read erotica before on accident purely. Like people have been like, this book's great. And then I get to it and I'm like, this is erotica. Like you have to tell me. Like, you know, so that's happened a few times with like Hades and Persephone specifically. People are like, this Hades Persephone book. And then I read it and it's erotica. That's happened to me like 3 times. So that's my only other, I keep getting cursed with that. So that's my only other experience with erotica. This was the most erotica of the erotica, I'd say, where it was really, really just about like getting to the next sex scene.
Okay, fair.
You know,
was it? I was gonna say I can't believe I don't have Lainey here, but Kayla, you're here. I don't think this is like that erotica. I was actually expecting it to be worse. I think that this did much more plot than I was expecting. If it were just jumping from alien sex scene to alien sex scene, that would have been one thing. But it tried to convince me that it had like all of this plot and like world building stuff that it was going on, and that's what lost me. Had it gone one way or the other, I think it would have been better. That said, I'm getting ahead of myself, but what I mean to say is that I do read sci-fi romance, and I do read I've read like other alien books. So I'm not just coming into this like this is not my introduction per se. Maybe it was like back in 2018, but since then I've read more. So I'm okay with the genre. I've read the Dothrakian space books. I read Morning Glory Milking Farm. I was
waiting for you to mention the Minotaur book. The fact that you, okay, I need to take a pause. The fact that you, of all of us, is like the weird erotica person that like has read more of it is like really confusing to me. Like, if people were to take bets, I don't think they would bet on it being you.
I don't think so.
I'm not saying I gave them 5 stars. I think that's.
I just think that you have a secret side. You know.
Yeah, you keep going back.
Like, is this like your Scorpio placements? Like, it's very
Yeah. These are my brain off books. People are always like, "Don't critical reading. Don't you ever do brain off books?" And I'm like, "Yes, alien porn like that."
and then I don't add it to my Goodreads. Like none of you know.
I don't add it to my Goodreads, and I don't talk about them online because I literally do not want to think about them, and that's why. Okay, so that's a little bit of history here. Kayla, you didn't say anything.
Yeah, I tend to dabble, but the closest I've gotten to alien smut was Transcendence by Shay Savage. It's like about a
I keep hearing that name.
Yeah, so I highly recommend it, by the way. So good. But that's as close as I get to time travel, sci-fi, whatever. Yeah. But I tend to dabble often. Every time Lainey's like, "Kayla, you should read this," I'm like, okay.
To be fair, that is also where that is also where I get everything. It's like Lainey, you read this, and I'm like, okay. All right, so let's talk about Ice Planet Barbarians. Okay. Let's start with the premise and the world, I guess, because again, the thing is that it does some world building, and it has like a structure of like these human women stranded on this alien planet, and then the big thing to me is like the cootie and the fact that they have these like the cootie, yes, that resonate to each other, so that they're being paired off with these aliens, and also they're
for breeding purposes.
Yeah,
the cootie is like y'all need to get pregnant.
Yes. So this is, I mean, fair warning for if you're watching this for some reason and have not read the book. This is like graphic sex on page, heavy content warning for rape, I would say, and then also a breeding kink thing, and then obviously because it is sci-fi, like they've got different anatomy and they talk about,
but not that different.
Not even like
I
was expecting more, guys.
I was expecting more as well. I was like, these are perfectly tailored to women's bodies. Okay, like I get why for like the erotica genre, but I'm like, okay,
yes, and so the whole thing, how did you guys feel?
I love just watching you struggle. You're like, so the world. Like,
it is. Sam put in the. I was like, oh, this stupid book, and Sam was like, it's camp. Like, lean into the camp. So, were you guys able to lean into the campiness of like the world and the world building?
kind of for me. So the part. The actual world, like not Hoth or whatever they call it, that was camp. The stuff in the spaceship where she called them basketball men and little green men, I was like, girl, try harder.
Yeah.
Like I get it. Like maybe she just started the books as being like, this is gonna be stupid and bring me lots of money. But like that was a little bit. It was weird to have that be so lazy and then have Ice Hoth be like kind of not lazy. Like she tried there, and I'm like. Why didn't you try the other? So it was really jarring to have like some of the things be so simple and like bad on purpose. And some be like, oh, we're going to have these little creatures and explain what they are and the foliage and the trees. And I'm like, excuse me, when did you turn into Tolkien of like alien porn? I don't, why? But I didn't mind the world building on the ice planet like that. I was like, okay, I can picture this. This is like kind of cool. Kind of like, I don't want to read more for the world building, but like, okay, you're trying harder than little green men and basketball heads.
Yeah, the spaceship part kind of lost me. I was like a little unsure of what was happening. It wasn't like really clearly described. And I was like, I don't know if I can read this. But then once we got to the ice planet, I felt like the world building fleshed out a little bit more.
Yeah, also that first chapter where we're talking about like the spaceship, the alien men, all that stuff happens in the first chapter. It is 30 pages long. I slogged through that first chapter like I don't know if I'm going to read this book because if it is all just like info dumping, I can't do it. But
it was bad.
It was just to get us to the planet. Like she was just like, here's this one chapter. And like as soon as I read the second and third chapters and got into it, I was like, okay, I see what she was trying to do at the beginning. She just was really rushing to get to this point. And I enjoyed it more when they met because it was like funny. Like some points I was like, I can't, the line where it was like, this isn't an alien come to eat me. This is an alien come to eat me out. I cackled. I screamed. The fact that I remember it. So there are parts I really enjoyed. And I liked when it got silly, but it wasn't silly enough.
Yes.
It was a little too serious.
Yes. And ultimately, okay, the parts that were too silly for me, like the whole thing with the cootie is just a little too silly for me.
I love that you keep calling it cootie.
Because that's what the girls call it. The girls call it cootie. See, I don't mind the cootie. I actually like the cootie feels like Avatar, not the Last Airbender, the Avatar, the blue, which I feel like is heavily inspired.
Yeah, it reminded me of the host. The host has that too.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, like I was kind of like, okay. Like, because I don't mind sort of like fated lovers, soulmate plots, and this was very much like a scientific explanation for that. So like the cootie didn't bother me.
Yeah,
I like, okay.
It kind of bothered me a little bit.
I love how you're like tasting something bad. You're like, this cootie, it's bitter.
Okay, but the real thing with the world building, and I see people talking about it in the chat too, about whether like suspending disbelief and like the realism versus, and I think it goes back to exactly what you said, Paige, about like it being silly but not silly enough. I feel like this walked that line of being not one thing or the other, and it didn't ever strike a good balance for me, because I if it wanted to go full silly, that would have been one thing, but it kept being weirdly realistic at points, like for one, reminding us about how bad everybody smelled and where they were pooping and peeing like in a bucket, and I'm like, why are we doing, I don't want it, that's too realistic. In these sorts of like erotic fantasies, everybody is hairless and smellless, and like, you know what I mean, like that is, those are not the details that I want right now, is like thinking about the mechanics of this. So it would go like full realism there, but then be like, cootie. And I'm like, what are we doing?
And then the whole like the bit with like the spaceship that they find that was like the cave they were in before they went to the guys' people. Right. It's so hard to even describe the translating spaceship. It was just like little moments like that where she was trying to like give us reasons for things and trying to make it like makes sense. Like, oh, this is how they're going to be able to talk to each other now. Not her learning language. She's just going to be downloaded immediately.
Yes. I was like, how
like that was
convenient
like
that she finds a random spaceship
exactly. I was just like,
that can give them
guys,
the powers to translate.
I'm okay with that because I was like, if you didn't have that, it would be so much longer. Like I'm like, yes, download the fucking language.
And the second
And also, I was having a
there's-
hard time reading what she was saying.
Oh no,
Yeah.
I did.
oh no, I knew exactly. I knew exactly what
took
she
the
was
vowels
saying.
out.
Yeah.
I listened to it on audiobook, so
audiobook.
Sometimes it took me a little while. I was like, wait, what the fuck? Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah.
Mari,
But-
the second book has something with that, with the language.
Oh, I was gonna so she doesn't have the download because he like steals her away basically, so
Right.
she doesn't get the download.
Yes, I do remember
But
that.
he does. I mean, he does though, so like he can understand her, but she doesn't know that he can understand her. So there's like a missed connections translation thing there. And I can confirm, Sam, it was actually worse.
Yeah, I feel like that would have gotten really tedious. Like, because I was sitting there when they were like not understanding. I was like, oh no, how long is it going to take for them to like be able to talk? So when it was a download, I was like, thank God. Like that's yes, that removes that problem. I'm totally fine with it. Actually, my problem with the spaceship, like that they found, was like the description of like, oh, they crashed like hundreds of years ago, and these are the ones that like survives. I don't necessarily think that like makes a ton of sense for how they went into like full barbarian mode. Like, I'm like, okay, so you were like a civilized people just a couple hundred years ago, and like you just lost all of it. Like, I don't believe you. Like I don't like when I've had books like that happen before, where it's like, you know, someone gets lost or whatever, and they just like go back to Stone Age. I'm like, I don't. Like, I get that they would have to use Stone Age stuff, but they would be smarter still. Like, they wouldn't have just devolved completely. So that doesn't quite make sense to me.
Yeah. 100 years is like one generation, basically. Like,
I thought it was longer than that. Wasn't it like
maybe one or two.
But they
like,
also
it wasn't
live longer. Like,
Yes.
they don't have the human life.
So like
that's
it
right.
wouldn't have been that far separated from like scientists.
Why are
So
we
I'm
trying
like,
to figure this out, though, guys?
I wish she would have said it was like 1,000 years then. Like, why make it only a couple hundred? Because it doesn't make any sense.
And that's the thing
Maybe
is
for a
that I
plot
kept
point
having
down the
these
road.
moments, and I was like, "Why am I doing it?" But it wasn't me. She was
No.
the one who was bringing it up. I didn't ask to think about this. She included these details, and I was like, "I'm so upset."
I just love how like occasionally she'll be like, "Oh my God, that's right, my friends are dying back there." But let me just
Honestly, I mean,
They're
there were points though that I like forgave. I know we're gonna get to character stuff, but there were I kept being like, "Girl, like your friends are dying," but it was also like she, you know, they couldn't talk. Like he wouldn't let her go back to the mountain. Like I get it, but it was also just like she really is like frolicking. But she kept saying like she was self-aware, where she's like, "I'm frolicking with this man, having sex with him, and my friends are dying." Like, so she felt bad, which is like, I guess,
but not bad enough to stop and go get them.
Well, what was she gonna? I mean, again, what was she gonna do? Like, she was what, like, basically, like, barefoot. Like, I mean, I guess she wasn't barefoot, but like that. She didn't
And
have
pregnant.
like she couldn't have survived. Yeah, I mean, at that point, she is after like 3 days. So yeah, I guess I didn't get as mad at her about that. I did keep noticing, but the fact that she kept being like, "Yeah, I know that I haven't gone back to my friends," I was like, okay, fine.
Yeah,
but that's like another one of those serious, silly things. Like, she's like, "Oh, I'm silly and I'm having sex all the time," and then like they get back to the girls and they're like emaciated and they can't even lift their arms, and like the one girl can't even wake up. It's like, oh,
the poor girl who got raped is frozen in the snow,
dead,
right?
Just
after she gave him a handy, it was like,
oh my god,
After she gave him a handy, and she comes across the poor first again. Tone was all over the place here. It kept whiplashing my feelings, and I didn't appreciate it.
Yes.
That was like the only character who reacted to the situation realistically was that girl.
Yeah. And they were like, "You can't be here. You have to die."
she
you're gonna stall the plot.
Left and died.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because they don't even know each other. So like, why would I be trusting my fate on this random girl?
Yeah.
That I just met on this spaceship.
Yes,
I think she was French and didn't speak English like the rest of them either.
Oh, I think you're right. I think she couldn't communicate with them. But also the fact that like Georgie becomes like in charge,
the leader.
Like, why isn't Kira the one with the ear thing in charge? Like, I don't.
Why did she take her with her out into the snow?
In case they came across an alien, because that's logical, guys. You're asking too much right now.
Yeah,
they only had one alien suit.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Right. Yes.
The one that he killed.
Yeah.
We talk about
stinky,
the girls,
which was really stinky.
We're gonna come back to Dominique because I've got so many issues with that entire. I mean, the big issue is just that it was included. But before we go there, I want to talk about Georgie and Bechtel. I almost forget. Yes, and how you felt about them as characters, and if there was like chemistry here. A lot of like monster romances and sci-fi romances, like they can be cozy, weird and weirdly romantic. Like you don't expect it, but it is like romance between the two. Did you feel any of that with these characters here?
I wouldn't call it romance.
Get past the initial like meeting of the two of them for the entire book.
Me neither.
Fair.
I was like, I can't get past that.
Yeah. I did a little bit of suspension of disbelief for that. Like as soon as it started happening, I was like, oh, and I was like, but you have to like the fact that she's fine with it, even though it's not fine. I was like, okay, well, like for the sake of finishing this, like I have to just like move past that because it was like he's doing it because whatever, like the reasoning.
I mean, they do make it abundantly clear that she's okay with it, but still, I was like, I can't get past this.
But it's like hindsight, okay with it.
Right, like he had no way of knowing. Yeah, so that was very like, but I do like. There were moments that I was kind of like, oh, like, I wouldn't necessarily say like I shipped them. Like I'm not going to be thinking about them a ton, but like. Lainey talks about this a lot with like this book and the Transcendence books where she's like these guys that just want to take care of you and don't care about anything else. There's like something appealing about that. And like there is like, as I was reading it, I was like, all he cares about is her pleasure, her comfort. That's it. And I was like,
and meanwhile, that gives me the ick. So it was the opposite.
Well, that's maybe you need to go to therapy.
I do. It's the element of it where it's like that's the one thing we had nothing else about either of the characters to care about. So like,
and that's why the Kui thing like had to be a thing too, because it's like that's the only reason they even because they're almost like soulmate bonded.
Through a parasite.
Yeah, it was weird when like the moments, and I like sort of laughed because I think it was funny, where he's like, she's so ugly with her flat nose and no tail and whatever, but she's my ugly baby. Like, what?
Don't make fun of her.
Yeah, like I wouldn't say I shipped it, but I guess I get the appeal that like why this got so popular, like because of some of the things like the breeding kink that people are like really into, and like the man just being like all about her and like her pleasure. Like I get from an erotica standpoint
constantly.
Yes, I get from an erotica standpoint why that's appealing. Do I want to read the whole series? Absolutely fucking not. One book that was fine. I will go back to my angsty romances. Yes, but like I get the appeal of this being like a little cozier.
I also thought they had cute moments too. However, as soon as I thought that, I thought it's only been a day. Like it's only been a day or two. Yeah. And I know like Insta Love might be part of erotica. I'm not really familiar too much with the genre, but like it just took me right out. As soon as I thought it was cute, I'm like, it's been a day, and she's like not on Earth, and she's just willing to just give up everything just to stay there. I don't know.
There's a line when he's like, when he tells her about the Kui thing, and she's like, it would be sad to leave my family and my friends and everything I know, but like I kind of like him, and I'm like, there definitely, like I agree with Paige, there definitely wasn't enough to be like, why would she want to give up everything to stay with this man? Like, you're going to be living on a barbarian ice planet with no civilization whatsoever.
It was just the sex.
His dick
that kept her on this
planet. Yeah, and she's like,
it's like normally I like the soulmatey kind of stuff because like I grew up fucking reading Twilight, the imprint bond shit. I love it when it comes from like the fated side, but it was literally because of breeding, and I hate like that stuff. That's why it was just not made for me. Because I would normally like the fated connection, but it was because it was just because of sex, just because she would get pregnant, and I was like, this is not romantic to me at all.
Yeah. One of the problems that I had was that when he first sees her, or like is whatever their first scenes together, he constantly keeps like comparing her to a child. to like a baby.
Yes.
Okay.
The entire time.
Yes.
I'm like, this is weird. And why are you trying all these things on something that you think is a baby?
It's like a helpless baby. I was intrigued by the fact that, like, again, this book like walks the line and isn't in either, because for a book where the guy is like massive and whatever, there was those moments of him being like, she's kind of like a baby, but that kind of went by the wayside. They didn't have a ton of comparison of her being like, I'm so small. Mm-hmm. Like the hating game had that more than this did. And I'm like, this has every reason. That is a 7-foot tall man. Like but it didn't do that. So I almost was like, thank you for not doing that. But you still had that, like, this is my weird deformed thing that I love. And I'm like, okay.
I will say that even though, like, for me, I do also get the appeal of like the himbo cinnamon roll, big alien barbarian who only wants to take care of his mate. And then on the opposite side of this is like these human females who are in the situation and ultimately they don't have a choice. Mm-hmm. This book is like, maybe we can escape, but really they don't have a choice.
Yes.
They are
maybe we can die in 2 days.
Uh-huh.
So it's like basically like putting the fantasy is that you are trapped in the situation where you must have hot sex with giant alien men. That's the fantasy here.
And really. They take care of you.
And they take care of you. And these himbos are like, my pleasure, right? That's the setup here. And whether or not that works for you, like, I don't know, maybe it will, maybe it won't. To me, that wasn't the problem. My problem was with like the details and the writing and the way that this didn't commit to a tone. You know, the himbo girl stuck thing, like, fine, I get it. Like I do get the appeal of like, this man will take care of me and put me on his back like Spider Monkey Twilight style.
I definitely had a flashback. I was like, are we gonna do Spider Monkey right now?
Yes, like all of that. Like I get it. I just don't think it was done very well. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay, so my next question is, what do you, since we all kind of rated this pretty low, between 1 and 2 stars, what was the best part of the whole reading experience for you guys?
The throw off lines, like the one I mentioned, that actually were fun. Like, Georgie's funny at times because of how silly and ridiculous she reacts to the situation. Uh-huh. So I liked seeing her respond to things and being like, that is so fucking wild. Could not be me. Let's see what else happens. Like that, when it hit that like level, I really enjoyed the experience when I could actually turn my brain off and not try to figure out the logic of anything.
Yeah. I think if we're leaning into the campiness of it, I really enjoyed when the other girls made fun of the main character. Because like they always make fun. Like she's gone for like 2 days and she comes back and she's like, oh, I found the boyfriend. And then she's gone for a couple more days and she's like, I'm pregnant. It's like, this is ridiculous. Uh-huh. And they call it out.
Like that too. When they're like, oh, we're just here freezing and starving.
Yeah, and you're over here pregnant. Gary, basically.
Or when they go off into the cave and everyone else is like making fun of them and she's like, oh, we can't. They can hear us.
Yeah, the funniness of it. When it did lean into the camp and the funny haha, that was better. I can't say I necessarily enjoyed anything about this. What I did enjoy, what I thought was funny, because I like shared it with a bunch of people, is like, as much as this wasn't necessarily intending to be funny, as he was being described and all of like the sex stuff and like the fact that the fact that he has like a thing like an inch above his dick and we all know what it's for. Like I was like describing that to people. Like I was like, okay, listen, like this man, like that's how ridiculous this is, because I hadn't read alien porn before. So I was like, okay, like you have, and it was just like funny. Like I was like, as I was like reading it because I'm a child. So that was kind of funny for me. Like the as like all the things we're talking about that were making it so contrived, I like giggled at, because I was like, it's very convenient that there's a spaceship that can give them the language. You know, like that was, I was okay with some of that stuff just for like the camp element of it.
I'm a big sucker for like wilderness survival story type things. So even though there was world building here and it took itself too seriously, I enjoyed that part of it. Like I enjoy icy landscapes and like desert road trips and things like that. So like anywhere that it's desolate, I like that setting. So yeah, that's part of what I liked about this a lot.
Yeah, I definitely didn't like hate like like I said, the Hoth world. Like I could picture it, and I was like, oh, I wasn't expecting to use like my imagination for this. Like that's nice. I thought it was just gonna be brain off ice the whole time.
I will say, one, I like that it was short. I think Ruby Dixon knew exactly the correct length to keep this story, and it was like the perfect length, which I
the audiobook was well done.
I'm always like 50 pages out, 100 pages out, but this one was like the perfect length. Good job. Yes. Yeah. And I do love fish out of water stories. So all of the like, I don't know, the weirdness about like she has a nipple between her legs and like the stuff like where it's like human weird and like them not understanding each other, like that stuff I thought was like funny and charming. Like that's kind of what you want when you're getting human monster or alien or whatever, is like those points of not understanding each other. So I thought that was like fun.
Yeah, I actually also didn't mind that, like, again, when we're talking about this, we all understand what this is and that it's not like necessarily for us, that we're not erotica readers and like what it's trying to do. So I'm actually like, as much as it's unbelievable that they all just like accepted their fate and took on the Kui and whatever, I'm also like, good. Because if they were sitting there being like, no, I don't want, I'd be like, oh my God, like that was 50 more pages. Like I didn't want to have to, like, I'm glad that they didn't really like, they kind of glossed over the deliberation and like any of her explaining. Like she could have really gone into all of that and like wasted our time, and she didn't. So like I do appreciate that, like she knows what she's doing as far as like writing an erotic, like it was what was on the tin, and like I'm happy with that, because I was really thinking, I was like, we're gonna have all this stuff where she's gonna be like fighting the fact that she has this like barbarian soulmate, and she was like, no, I'm cool with it. I was like, okay, thank you. Yeah. Bless.
I agree. I think that I figure why a lot of people say that like these books get better as they go on is that she probably figures out a tone here, because I think that she's got structure and she's got length. People keep
making a pun,
right? Length of the book, right? Already, I just feel like the tone was weird here, and it wasn't quite like sci-fi enough or plot heavy enough, and not quite smutty enough, I don't think, to like be full erotica. So maybe that balance gets better. Not in book 2, because that was also 2 stars for me. Maybe in book 5, 6, 7, whatever it is.
Yeah, I also wonder, because like this is obviously a setup book. We have to learn the world. We have to know how they get there. But I was wondering if I would enjoy like later books, because by that point we have all of that. So you get to like more smut, more like interesting, like funny, cool world stuff, maybe less on the setup. So I was wondering if I should explore further on in the series. But I don't know.
For brain off.
Just like brain off stuff. Like I do like reading brain off books.
Yeah. Like after a heavy fantasy, just be like, Ice Planet Barbarians number 13.
I do wonder though, like I am curious, I guess more so for like Kayla, since you've read farther, but like does each book sort of play with the trope? Because it seems like the next one, because I read a little bit to see like what's next. The next one seems like it's sort of like enemies, like I mean, like where she's like he's taken her and like they can't talk, whatever. There's a couple other in there that are like enemies to lovers, where like they hate each other. Like it seems like she might be doing some of these tropes like over and over.
So I read the 6 books that I read like 2018. So I just remember that the third one's my favorite, and I can't remember even why that was my favorite. So yeah, sorry, I can't answer you.
That's okay.
It does. So, but it does take 6 books to get to the alien babies.
Yeah, I want to avoid alien babies at all costs. I will not be reading about
covers.
children.
The covers have the babies on them.
I saw that with like the weird Photoshop blue babies. I was not.
I am glad that they're changing the covers. I am curious when we get to the baby covers what they're going to do with that. Personally, but
I'm alarmed by the alien babies, since I just wanted to know how far into the series they happen.
Yeah,
I like how
6
this
books.
whole series is like a breeding kink situation, and that's like the thing that Paige hated. She's like, well, maybe I'll consider you.
Like I will read up until the pregnancy, and I will put a book down. Like, no.
All the girls get pregnant. All the girls get, like, Georgie is pregnant, and the in the second book, the second girl gets pregnant.
Yeah.
But I think in like she has like even shorter novellas in between.
Yeah.
So
there was one
like
called Ice Ice Babies.
Yes.
No.
Those are like slice of life, like catching up with the
Yes.
characters. Like you can catch up with them on their honeymoon. I think they have
There
one
were
where
so many
Georgie's like,
honeymoon
we're
books.
doing Christmas.
Yeah.
And then they
Yes.
have one where you're like with the babies or whatnot. But the babies, I don't know if they show up in like on Maine, other than the whole thing is they're trying to get babies.
Uh-huh.
Babies.
No, I
They
don't
need
mind
to
the
replenish
getting
their
to the
people.
babies. It is the post getting to the baby section of it, of like the actual germination of the pregnancy, like following along with. I don't care about
Apparently,
that
the first baby is born in book 4.
Okay, cool. Thank
according
you
to
to the
chat.
person looking out for me. That's
Yeah.
what I wanted.
But like, and I'm also kind of grateful that like I was like, oh my god, are we gonna have an epilogue with like her having the baby and like and
No,
they
they're
didn't.
pregnant forever.
Yeah, and I was like, awesome. Like I also like don't want to see the baby. I don't want to hear about like her pregnant belly. Like I don't want any of that. But yeah, like she can be pregnant in theory, and like
In
that's
theory,
fine.
exactly.
Like,
fine.
That's fine. But yeah, I don't
Pregnant in
want
theory,
any of that.
Alyssa Cole crossover.
Why do we keep our February romance books don't tend to go over super well? It's okay.
Okay, this was about the best part. I haven't even asked you what the worst part of the book was for you guys. So what was the worst part of the book for you guys?
Although rape.
I was like,
Fair,
rape.
yeah.
Okay,
that was pretty
so-
bad.
So okay, I have not
The
that
first
the
one
rape
was at least portrayed as bad.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's true.
So I talked to Kayla about this. You guys had me ready for like a graphic rape scene. Like I was ready to be like all the details. The fact that it was like sort of, I mean, it was on page, but it was like not described. I was like, oh, not that it was good. Like I wasn't like, yay, rape scene.
This is
But
a great
I
rape
was,
scene.
I was more like, I was expecting like Game of Thrones level, like horrible. And I was like, oh, so I sort of understand, like, as much as it sucks that people like didn't point that out when it was getting popular, I sort of get why some people might have just glossed over the fact that happened because it wasn't like super described.
That was my problem. It wasn't that it was graphic. First of all, it was that it was like on page 3 or whatever it is that you're just like reading this and you're like, oh, an alien erotica. And then it's like, I was raped by an alien. And I was like, Jesus Christ.
Uh-huh.
A little bit
Nobody
too much too
warned
fast.
me. Yeah. And then, but the thing that really, really bothered me beyond, like the unexpectedness of it, and then as it got popular again on TikTok, the fact that nobody was mentioning it, the entire thing that bothered me was the framing of it. It was very much a Game of Thrones moment, like when Sansa is raped on Game of Thrones. Sorry for the spoiler there. No, where they like pan away, not that you want to watch it, but then they focus on Theon watching it, and so you get to experience, like, the rape is not about the person being raped, it is through the point of view of somebody else, and that's kind of what happened here. Like, that served absolutely no purpose. We watch it through like Georgie's sort of point of view. That character is forgotten and literally killed later, and then that's the entire framing of that. And then why? Like, it frustrated me so much that it was included.
It is weird, like, because you're saying, like, as far as like the rape, like, it is sort of like, why was it even used as like a device, like, because it didn't really matter. And then you're going to this planet where these women now have to have sex, and it's like after all the rape happened, like, that was a weird choice. Like, it's like they could have just like not fed them, beat them, and like kept them all in like a pig pen, and that would have been equally traumatizing, like without having the sexual
equally enough for them to not want to go back.
To like go back, to like not be wanting to take a chance.
I'm not sure.
Go ahead.
Sorry. I think another girl was raped though, and they have to deal with that later on in the book series. I'm pretty sure I remember that. So maybe that's
I've heard that too. Like, people are like, oh, well, there's another girl who like goes through like experiencing like her trauma or whatnot. And I'm like, I'm glad that she like thought about that down the line, but doesn't take away from the fact that you killed Dominique in this one. And like that was the entirety of her like plot line. And the thing that always gets me is when rape is used this way to express the brutality of a world. Like, oh, see, this is a really bad situation because somebody was raped, and it's just like, that's cheap, that's lazy. Also, people are raped all of the freaking time. Like, that doesn't express anything to me. So it's just like one of those things that was making me think too much for the level of this book. Like, you wanted me to have like a fun, like, fantasy erotica kind of thing, but I'm here thinking about like this really serious thing that you handled poorly, and it just completely took me out of the story. And so then I'm sitting here questioning everything, like the stupid space computer, downloading languages, and now I can't stop, so like I'm not having fun anymore.
Chat said apparently she took the details of the rape scene out of the special editions, which I mean, so was your when you read the novellas or the ebook back when in 2018, was the rape scene more detailed in that than the current version?
No.
Oh, okay.
The special edition, I think, is the one that they printed with the new covers, is what she's saying. Like, if you read like a physical copy with the new cover, it might not be in there.
I mean, I read the ebook copy.
I read the physical copy. It's up there somewhere, and it did have like the scene. It wasn't any detailed. I'd be curious to like compare it to see what the difference is. But it was like the same thing you said, Maddie, where it felt like they were just saying like, oh, here's like a very violent scene to show what a bad situation it's in, and I was sort of like, that's like, I hate when it's used as a plot point just to like emphasize something versus like for an actual purpose. And it was the same in the special edition. Yeah.
I also feel like I've heard like part of what people like about these books is that it's like a little bit self-aware, and there's like a little bit of like snappiness to the female main characters, and that there's a little bit of them like asserting themselves or whatnot, and I don't know, like feministy vibes or whatnot. I don't know that I got any of that from the two books that I read, and maybe that gets better. Like, I don't feel like it explored absolutely anything that I would be like, cool. Like, this is like, I don't know.
This has something to say. Like, I definitely.
This is elevated fantasy, sci-fi, romance, or whatever. This is. I didn't get any of that from this book. Does that happen later, Kayla?
Kayla's like, I also do not know.
Yeah, remember?
Obviously, it's like forgettable. So, I couldn't even tell you.
Yeah, I definitely like it. I don't feel like the women were like horribly not feminist either. They were just neutral. Like, I wasn't getting a vibe of like, oh, they're really sticking up for themselves. Like, there's a few moments where she's like, I think the biggest moment was when he basically was like, oh, there's a bunch of women and like all the guys are going to be really about that. And she's like, no, they have to choose. And it's like,
then immediately
it's right. Exactly. And like, what's the choice here? Like, they have to take the Kuian or they die. Like, so it isn't. Yes, like she has those moments inserted in there, but it's like, for what purpose? Because they're not going to be able to choose anyway. Like, they have to stay here, and they're like going to fall in love with these guys because of this like parasite
mating bond thing.
So
yeah. I don't anything else. Listen, it's 42 minutes, and I didn't think we were going to get
like
I was saying we did really well. I mean, are we going to ask, like, is anyone going to try to continue? It seems like Paige is on the fence. Kayla has continued, but is like, whatever.
I might, like, brain off, but
yeah.
I feel like I need to be told like what like the shit, like what the tropes are for each of the books, and then I'll pick and choose which ones I like based on like the tropes, because like I posted a video about reading it. And I was like, it's breeding kink. And somebody was like, that explains the entire series. And no one said that to me before. And I'm like, yes, I need someone to explain to me so I can choose as well. Yeah.
I mean, the audiobook was only like 5 hours long. So on 2 speed, it took me 2.5 hours to listen to it.
I could not.
It was a fast read.
So the fact that you guys can listen to this, I don't. That would be, I would get too much secondhand embarrassment.
I listened to it like with other people around too. I just
my God, you were so brave. I could not. Like, even reading it alone in my apartment. Like, I told them, like, usually I read between like things at work, and I was like, I can't read this between like seeing clients. Like, are you kidding me? Like, I would feel like guilty that I was just reading alien porn. Like, I couldn't. So I had to like only read it like at night after work. Like, the lights are out in my house, and I'm like, is anyone gonna like know that I'm reading alien porn? Like, it was too much for me. So yeah,
that's when I read it. I read it on my computer at work in a call center setting.
Wonderful.
I don't want to continue it, but I want you guys to, so you can tell me certain things, because I'm like curious about certain things. And I just want you guys to like relay that information to me, like gossip.
I got the first like 5 from the library because I was convinced that I was like, oh, I'll just binge these. It took me forever to get out of book 2. And the thing is that I don't want to read any more of these. But also I like my Virgo side is still like, what's the magic? Like what?
Yeah.
I like feel so curious about like how this proceeds and if I'm missing anything here. Or if maybe maybe it just is not for me. And that's fair. But I feel like I don't know yet. But also, I never want to read one of these books again. So
I am also a little bit like you, where I'm like, how did this get so popular to where like so many people are reading it that they're now publishing it traditionally? Like, what? Was it all just like 2020, 2021 brain off? Like, and I have a number of people that I know that are like, I trust their critical opinions of things and they like love them.
That's why I'm like, I need to figure out what it is. Like, I need to know what it is. And I feel like I haven't gotten to the bottom of it. Yeah. So
it's a mystery.
It's a mystery. Yeah. But yeah, this exploded because of, because it was kind of popular, I think, like back in that 2018 period or whatnot, but it came back around on TikTok. I cannot tell you like where from or like what corner or who like started the whole thing, but it just became wildly popular on Book Talk. And I don't know, man, this strikes a chord with people. And I don't know.
For some reason.
Someone mentioned that Mara of Books Like Whoa, which is who I was talking about that actually likes this, has an 1.5 hour recap of the series, which that sounds like it'll serve my purposes. So none of you have to read it. That's great. I'll just watch that. Thank you, Mara, for your service.
It's like yeah. Himbo alien energy. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
Is it?
I didn't know that many people had a breeding kink. That's the big thing that got me. I was like, oh, breeding kink is like very in. Like I was expect like praise kink. Like that's a little more like mainstream. Like breeding kink. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Well, I think that like Barbarian. I was thinking that they were going to be even more barbarian than they are. I mean, they live in a cave or whatever, but like
they wear furs.
They speak.
They have
normally.
knives. Yeah. Do they speak normally? It's very much like. She pretty. I mean, it's a little bit less like there's more to their sentences than I thought there was going to be, arguably. So yeah, I think you're right. But there is like, they are very basic, no brain.
I don't know. I thought they spoke normally. So maybe I'm a barbarian.
Oh, okay.
the healer could just like touch people and heal them.
Yeah,
there was that one random magic character.
But
she's
you have to have a cootie.
Yeah, you have to have a cootie and probably be a woman.
I think she was the only healer.
Yeah. But it was because of her cootie.
Again,
why is her so
but why did the cootie give just her that power? Why am I thinking
no brain.
No brain. We're doing it again.
Yes, don't analyze.
Really point, though, because Book Talk made this popular, and we've been talking about like the breeding kink, but Book Talk also hates the pregnancy trope. So how they pick this one to go with? Wild to me. Yeah. Okay.
Somewhere, sometime in the future, anthropologists will be analyzing this, and like historians, and being like,
or
what
like
was
actual aliens are going to be reading this and be like,
right?
These humans are weird.
Yeah, just remember that this will go down in like the archives as like a literary event.
Yes.
It's in the Library of Congress.
Can't wait.
Listen, everybody needs to have fun. I just didn't
Everybody makes mistakes.
This is not my brand of fun.
This is not this was not fun for me.
We will not be continuing on this platform with that.
No, we're not reading this for book club anymore. I'm sorry.
Let's not do erotica for a long time again. Let's just like leave that.
Okay, again.
No, but like if it was something really wild, I was expecting like to be kikiing in the corner, like laughing at the sex. Nothing. It was so tame.
I mean, do you want to read Morning Glory Milking Farm page? Is that what you say?
Maybe I do.
Maybe next February.
That's what I need.
Next February. The spider erotica that I keep hearing about. Like,
no.
The one that I've read is the Disney villains ones.
Okay.
It had things to say. All right. It was high literature.
No, I gave it 3 stars, but that's better than 2.
That's good, though. That's good. Maybe next
anything else about the blue aliens? I'm really proud of us for all giving this a fair shot. I'm really proud of us for all saying positive things that we found here.
I do want to say we were kinder to this, and we've been to like most of our threes. Like, I mean, like we were really like, you know, we were very kind. Like, to
okay,
to
if
this.
you ask me right now if I would rather read the third book in the series or the second Chloe Gong book, I would read the third
opposite
book
for me. Sure. No, I'm sorry, y'all. No, when I was reading this, I was like, Chloe's book was like fucking Shakespeare by comparison, writing style wise.
I'm sorry. I would rather.
This was so much easier to read.
Yes, I would rather read 150 pages of this than like 500 useless pages of like the second Chloe Gong book.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Like, it's less time. My brain can be off. It's not trying to be anything serious. Like,
yes. They were both 2 stars for me, but These Violent Delights was by far the biggest disappointment. Like, oh my God. Like, yeah. Ruby Dixon did what she did. She did what she set out to do. Chloe Gong.
And honestly, good for her. You know how much she's breaking in right now? Good for her.
Yes.
I wish I could be her.
Yeah.
I don't.
Me too. Me too.
Yeah. Like the amount of money?
Yes.
I could write this.
We could write this. I'm just saying. We would have something to say.
We have a title.
Right.
Okay. Anything else that we missed before we announce the next book?
No.
Great. Good job, guys. Good job, team.
Quite a pivot for the next book.
We did good.
Quite
yes.
I'm so freaking excited for the next book.
Yes, I'm very invested in this being a good book.
Okay, so for March, we are reading Jade City by Fonda Lee. Woo! I am so freaking excited. I have heard nothing but good things. I feel like this is the book.
Yes.
And of course, this is the one that I'm gonna miss because I'm gonna be over. This is the one I'm gonna miss. The good book potentially because I'll be overseas, but it's fine. This is my legacy: reading alien porn and disappearing into the ether.
The last time we see Paige.
Oh my God.
I'm really excited. Join us again for our live show next month. It will be the last Sunday of the month, and then we'll tweet about time. We always say that, do we?
Nope.
Sometimes. Just check my channel for when it's going live.
It's usually 8 p.m. Eastern time. We had to bump it up a little earlier this time just because of some scheduling things, but last Sunday of the month, usually 8 p.m. Eastern time. And yeah, that is it. Thank you so much for joining us, guys, and for sharing all of your thoughts. Both the people who liked it and hated it. I saw equal amounts in the chat. So
yes.
Always a good time. And thank you for joining us. And we'll see you next month.
All right. Bye.